Hello, everyone. Thank you for waiting. Hope you have been doing great. I am Palak Agarwal, part of the Digital Enterprise Management Program. I was exactly on the other side of the webinar that took place in September last year. The journey has been incredibly rewarding over the past few months. It's an honor to be able to introduce the people who have made this program a reality. Please welcome with me Professor Rajesh Agrawal, Chairperson of 1-year MBA program at IIM Udaipur, Dr. Y. Shekhar, Head of Center for Digital Enterprise Management, Ms. Tanu Bhatt, in charge of Admissions Office. Before we begin the presentation, I would request you to post your questions in the Q&A section and not in the chat box. Now, I would request Professor Rajesh Agrawal to take it ahead. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Palak, and a very warm welcome to all the participants of the webinar today. And a quick check, Palak, I think for a while your video was not visible, but now you're back. Okay, all right. So what I'd like to do is very briefly talk about the program, the admissions, and those issues. And if there's any question that you'd like to ask of us, I would request you to post them in the Q&A section. Next slide, please. Right. So the very, first question that may come in your mind, and rightly so, that why should you consider IIM Udaipur as an institution for pursuing your MBA? I'm happy to say that IIM Udaipur has been ranked among the top 100 business schools in the world by a very prestigious financial daily called Financial Times, published from London, in the Masters in Management program. And so that is where we are ranked among top 100. We are also listed in the QS World University ranking for the third consecutive year. And the third, and not the least, is that we are the youngest institute in the world to have received the accreditation from AACSB. AACSB stands for Association to Advance Collegiate School of Business. And for your information, only 5% business schools in the world have received this accreditation. And to be a part of that club, which holds 5% of the accreditation out of all the business schools, is a unique feat. Not only that, but we are the youngest institution in the world to have received this accreditation. What it means is IIM Udaipur was set up as early as 2011, but in the span of only 7 years of our existence, we could earn this accreditation. That is in 2018. So no other business school had earned this accreditation this quick. So why, it's important to understand about all this rankings accreditation is this, that it tells us about the story of excellence. Whatever we do in terms of design and delivery of the program, we do it with the focus and with the idea of delivering high quality content and high quality delivery. Next slide, please. Now, it's important to understand the program structure. First of all, this is an MBA degree program in Digital Enterprise Management. It's a 1-year full-time program. It's an on-campus residential program, and it requires minimum 36 months of full-time work experience to be able to apply after your graduation, not before. This 3 years of experience can be in multiple organizations, can also have breaks in between. That's not a problem, but you must have finished 3 years of experience. And to be able to apply, you must have a valid GMAT, GRE, or a CAT score. You have to have at least one of those. If you have more than one, you can key in or enter both the results, but you must have at least one score. A common question that everybody has across webinar is that what is the minimum cutoff that you have to be able to apply in this program? And I would like to mention that we do not have a specific cutoff in mind. When we evaluate the application or candidature of a person, we look at many aspects, and your score in these exams is only one input. So we would look at your experience, type of experience, and the whole host of other factors that goes into evaluating the candidature of a person. So that's important to know that, this cutoff thing is not so important. I would also like to mention right here, which comes up later in the question and answer session, that, should I apply in the first cycle? Should I apply later on? It doesn't matter. If you have a valid score, go ahead and apply. If you don't have a valid score, please write the exam so that you have a valid score, so that you can apply in one of the cycles. Next slide, please. So to talk to you briefly about the program structure, if you can look at the pyramid structure, so what we are trying to say is this. When a candidate joins the program, as you can see at the bottom of the pyramid, the very first thing that every candidate is taught is a business management fundamental. Please understand, it's an MBA degree first, then comes the digital enterprise management. Because you're going to walk out as an MBA of an IIM, it's important that all the graduates understand and appreciate the business management fundamentals, right? Such as finance, HR, marketing, things like that. Everybody has to learn. After having learned the business management fundamental, it's important to understand how do you apply these concepts in a digital organization, right? That's the second row that you see in the pyramid after the first one. So basically, it focuses on the emerging concepts in the field of digital, emerging methods, emerging practices in the field of digital, right? And that is what you focus in this term two, not term two, the second part of the program. Then, whenever we use the term digital, essentially at the heart of the term digital is basically data and technology. How do we use or leverage the power of data and technology in improving the decision making for an organization, right? That's what we are focusing in this section on technology and data, right? Ultimately, it has to be at the service of improving decision making and improve business practices in the organization. Likewise, it's also important to understand how do we use technologies, right? How technologies are involved in creating, managing, and analyzing data so that that becomes a source of power for you in the organization. And that is what we understand in this section. Then moving further, you can say, okay, all right, that this far is so good, but how do I really apply all this in the real life situation? And that is where digital in industry vertical comes into picture, right? We have to bring in the real life situation to the classroom. And how do you do that? You say, okay, how do I apply the concepts I have learned in the first 6 months of the various industry verticals, such as fintech or retail or social sector, healthcare, media, entertainment, and the whole host of areas. And that is where you basically learn this real application in different industry verticals. And that's not all. Then we expect you to dirty your hands. What I mean by dirtying your hands is this. Then you actually take a real life company problem in the domain of digital and try and solve a real life problem. And that is what we call experiencing digital management through a live industry project that you have to do while you are here in IIM Udaipur, right? You don't have to travel, but you have to do it while you are here. And that will require at least 3 to 4 months of work in the later half of the program. And that is what we call experiencing digital management. And as you can see, through a variety of these things, we want to bring real life to the classroom. And that is what is basically the broad DEM design, digital enterprise management design. Next slide, please. Now, you can see that the left-hand side of the vertical here, which talks about all the business management fundamental. Right in the center, you see, digital management courses such as design thinking, product management, digital transformation, things like that. Data and technology courses are like blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence. But let me remind you, these courses are not going to make you an expert in this area as a technology person would become. The idea is that you should appreciate this, but try and understand how do you apply this in a business context, because you are going to become a business manager and not a technical manager. Then, of course, I talked to you about the digital industry vertical. and experiencing digital management. And in the last term of your program, you shall have the opportunity to choose from variety of elective courses, which will include leadership, or domain-specific courses or function-specific courses, as you may like. So this has been very carefully designed and developed program where we have taken lots of inputs from the industry practitioners, and this is what is basically done design. Next slide, please. Right. So the institute has set up a center for digital enterprise, right? Because the institute believes a center like this will give an impetus to the program and help it take it forward, which is headed by Dr. Y. Shekhar. And I would like to hand it over to Dr. Shekhar to talk more about the center and how the activities in the center relate with the program. Over to you, Dr. Shekhar.
Thank you, Professor Rajesh, and a happy Teachers' Day to you. Good evening and a warm welcome to all the participants in today's webinar. It's a privilege and honor for me to be speaking to you. And at the end of it, I should also be participating in the Q&A should there be any question that requires a response from the center side. See, the purpose of creating a center is to build the ability to look ahead and develop thought as well as practice-oriented capabilities. So many things have to happen well in advance before it becomes a curriculum or before it becomes something that the students start experiencing. And that's where the center is. So some time back, the center was focused on putting a structure to the program. Now the center actually focuses on how does decision-making happen in the business world. So this could be in terms of engagement with the leadership community out there in business, trying to engage at the policy level, which could be at the government level to look at, the kind of impact digital brings in, as well as look at research in the area of digital, which globally has not been attempted much. So these are the three areas that the center is actually focused on, and all of them pertain to digital. So how does digital help in policy making? So just to cite an example of that, one of the courses that you would be doing is on data privacy. And if you're reading the newspapers or whichever is the source of information that you get, the government of India is actually speaking about the privacy policies challenges, which is not just a problem in India, but it's a global problem too. So, what kind of role can the center play with the government in that area, or anything to do with healthcare, or something to do with edtech, or something in the area of fintech? So these are our attempts to look at, how do we engage at the point where action is happening in the country and try and bring that experience back into the institute in terms of learning. The other side of this is actually to do research. And research involves faculty members, both in India as well as abroad, because they collaborate and try and identify areas where digital has made a big impact or is likely to make an impact at the societal level or at the business level. So depending on the nature of research, whether it is meant for social sector or it is meant for business sector, we would be supporting and encouraging those kind of thoughts there. And the third, which is practiced by all management institutes, is that of management development programs. However, the center focuses on how do we develop leadership transformation for digital adoption, or what kind of challenges one must be ready for once one accepts digital to be the way business has to be done. So these are very specific programs which need to be conceptualized, which need to be positioned, and also targeted to the kind of management level that we want to interact with to provide them with insights. So this is where the center is constantly engaged in working with the industry, researchers, and the policymakers to bring in what's happening in their areas to see the overall development as far as digital is concerned. Can we move on to the next slide? So how the center is therefore positioned for doing all these things and the impact it would have on the students engaged in this program is listed here. So first and foremost is to look at it in terms of understanding business challenges. The big challenge that many companies are facing is that the role of the expert is now becoming transformed into a role of a generalist. People want managers to be multi-skilled, aware of a multidisciplinary approach to problem solving. The nature of problems are changing, therefore the skill sets required to solve those problems are changing, largely on account of usage of data and technology, as Professor Rajesh mentioned, which are the cornerstones of digital. So how do we engage with them and how do we bring them into a format of a lesson is one part of it. This also helps us developing case studies, writing cases, which is where some of the faculty currently are actually involved in. Like I mentioned a little while ago, research, which is getting deep into what's happening, understanding the cause and effect, or trying to figure out, what is the kind of influence it could have at a social level or at the commercial level or even at ethnic level. These are the things that the project actually looks at, research projects. More importantly, when we look at it from a student project perspective, that's something that we would speak a little more in detail. It is where the center actually works very closely with the industry to identify problems that the industry is facing or specifically an organization is facing that can be solved in a classroom environment by students. So the students of DEM actually get exposure to both technology and business through the environment of project, which is what Professor Rajesh mentioned in his presentation as the last bit of dirtying your hands, is where you are actually working with organizations and solving a problem that they have asked you to solve. And in the process of solving that, you actually understand the role of technology, the role of data, the role of decision-making, the role of everything else that you studied, be it the organization behavior or the economic impact, or even the social objectives that need to be met. So this is where you get a wholesome feel of how the interaction of the center at policy and research and business level leads to the impact of the learning that the student goes through in the program. Now, how do we actually go about doing this? It looks very fancy on a screen like this, but the real hard work is done by a number of people who you would see in the next slide. And the people mentioned here are people who head various functions in the organizations or are heads of the business itself, and they actually are part of the advisory board. The center actually has this advisory board largely to advise the center on what kind of things to look at. So the points I mentioned, be it policy or research or practice, comes from the inputs that these people have given us. It also looks at into areas of technology, which is the kind of technology that needs to be focused a little more in comparison to something else, basis the needs of the industry. Finally, it is also the body that gives direction to how this program, the institute, and the center actually get itself into in the long term. So this is for the long haul. So how do we see ourselves becoming the leader in the area of digital is where the center and the advisory board works closely on. Just a little bit, you can see the companies that these people come from. It's a mix of tech companies or non-tech companies. Consulting firms are there, as well as the academicians, because it is important to understand that what the industry wishes you all to practice needs to be taught first. And how feasible is it to teach those is where the faculty comes in and makes those assessments. So finally, what you get out of the DEM program in collaboration with the center and the program office is a wholesome experience that takes you through management and digital aspects to be ready for the kind of challenges that the businesses are currently facing and are likely to face in future. I hand it over back to Palak to take it forward.
Thank you, sir. Coming on to the last year's placement figures, as you can see, last year's batch of 2022-23 was placed 100. IIMU made a history again with placing 100% of our batch with an average compensation of 21.5 lakh, with a few of the prestigious organizations' names mentioned at the right side. That is Accenture, Infosys, and several more. Moving on to the next slide, let's have a look at the transformation journey. This will be my experience. It's always a pleasure to speak about my IIMU journey. First, let's start by providing a brief about myself. I come from a non-tech background and I was earlier working in social sector. Yes, you heard it right. I come from non-tech and social sector experience. I didn't have anything to do with technology as such before I joined the course. But DEM helped me in capitulating my career ahead. The faculties are experts with industry experience and thus provide valuable insights on the latest technology trends. One more interesting part about this course is that it provides case-based learning, and therefore we could easily connect our theoretical knowledge with practical implementation. Along with academics, there's a learning and development cell that prepares us for the rigorous interview and placement preparation. We also get to interact with domain experts and industry leaders, right from CEO of Tata Digital to lead consultants at KPMG and Accenture. Last but not the least, we get hands-on project experience with leading corporates to get open ground for implementing our skills and knowledge. Overall, I would say it's a transformation journey, which not only would help you with your career trajectory, but with overall personal development. Moving ahead, as I mentioned, DEM also provides a lot of live project opportunities, namely with Naukri.com, Tech Mahindra, Deloitte, and several more. So we get a lot of exposure to work on projects provided by different corporates so that we can implement our theoretical knowledge with practical experience. Now, I would request Rajesh sir to take it ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shekhar and Palak. Palak, you briefed about your own journey at IIM Udaipur, but summarizing for a participant who is prospecting and thinking about pursuing a management education, your question comes as to why should I consider a program in digital enterprise management? So the very first thing I would like to say is this is a unique program. What makes it unique is this, that not only you understand the concepts of management, but you also understand the domain of digital. I mean, going forward for several decades, I would believe that the relevance of digital will only going to go up. And in that sense, the industry needs lots of competent people who could deliver quick and deliver high impact, within the organization. And that's where the relevance of this programs comes. And that's where the high placement and quick placement numbers kind of come from. So it's a unique program because of the blend. You get an MBA degree from a prestigious institution. As Dr. Shekhar talked about, that this is a highly industry-oriented program in the sense that the program design is heavily dictated or influenced by what the advisory board has suggested to us, right? Because they are at the forefront of doing things in the field. And not only that, many of the industry, including advisory board members, come and teach in this program. Approximately 40 to 50% of the program is taught by industry practitioners, which is a very unique phenomenon of this program. And not to talk about the last but not the least is the fact that IIM Udaipur is a premier institution, not only nationally, but internationally in terms of its, rankings and accreditation and its quality of research and quality of students. So all that put together, I would say this, that if MBA is something that excites you, if you are somebody who has already 3 years of minimum experience and you believe digital is the future, then perhaps this is a program for you to seriously consider. And as you would have noticed, that Palak does not come from a digital background. She came from a social sector background. So what we require is somebody who is from the digital background or IT background is absolutely welcome. But even those candidates who do not have that background, but are passionate about digital or its future and wanting to get into this also is a program for them, right? So now what we'd like to do is that, next slide, please. I would request you to take a screenshot of this. Please take note of the email ID and the phone numbers flashing on the screen here. So after the question answer session, which will last for the next, I would say, half an hour or so, we will answer everybody's question, each and every question. And after that, if there are some remaining questions, you're very welcome to write to us or talk to us Monday to Friday at these numbers, right? And we'll be happy to come back to you and clarify your doubts, right? So I would request Palak to shut the PPT down and we will get into the Q&A section. And so please feel free to ask any question that you may have. And I will request Palak to host the next part of the session. So over to you, Palak, for Q&A section. So Palak, I would request you to read out the question because not everybody can see what is the question, and one of us would answer the question.
Sure, sir. First question comes from Vivek. His question is, how DEM differs from one-year MBA programs offered by IIM A, B, C, L, etc. or ISB?
So let me take that. So, IIM A, B, C, or ISB are general management programs, right? Like a 2-year MBA program, these are 1-year MBA program, but general management program. Whereas the program we are running here is a combination of general management as well as digital, because we believe the decades to come, your expertise and your understanding and appreciation of digital, the domain, the application, the opportunities will make you or give you a special edge, which perhaps the general management may or may not, right? So I'm not trying to say one is better than the other, but the question is of interest and relevance. So that is the basic distinction. So in the DEM program, you have both general management, but a specific focus on the domain of digital.
So next question comes from Nilendra. His question is, what will be the minimum experience required for this program?
You have to have at least 3 years of full-time experience after your graduation, right? And this experience of 3 years can be together, can have breaks in between, and can be in different companies also. But it has to have full 3 years of experience.
So next question comes from Vivek. His question is, I have 6 years of experience. I saw the average batch experience is less than 6 years. Is it ideal for me to apply for DEM program?
Dr. Shekhar would like to take it.
Absolutely. Like Professor Rajesh mentioned, if digital interests you, please do apply. So while the average age of the batch is around 5 years, that clearly indicates that there are some people who are above the average and some below the average. Our sweet spot has always been between 3 and 8 years of work experience. There are people with little more than 8 years who are speaking to us, wanting to do this kind of a program, which is where we are also speaking to the industry to know whether from a placement perspective, more than 8 years makes sense. But right now, 3 to 8 years happens to be the sweetest spot for the industry to come and pick up students from this particular program, as well as from a learning perspective, this seems to be the right age for people to make that kind of a transformation in their lives.
Next question is from Saptarshi. I had a query regarding the admission cycle. Is there any inherent benefit in applying in cycle 1 as compared to the following application cycles? I asked this question because I'm planning to retake my GMAT as I had not hit my target score in first attempt, and the reattempt will put in track for admission cycle 3. Or is there any option to update my GMAT score in the portal later on?
Let me attempt this answer. Saptarshi, so there is no inherent advantage or disadvantage of applying in a particular cycle. Having said that, it's your call as to whether you want to apply now with the score you have, or you'd like to wait for a better score. Any candidate who has applied in a particular cycle can reapply in a next cycle only if the candidate has improved one's score. Otherwise, once your candidate, you are interviewed and you are not offered an admission, you cannot reapply again. So you take a call as to you'd like to apply now or you'd like to apply later.
Next question comes from an anonymous attendee. The question is, can you share a range of safe SCAT percentile to get through, or the average of last cohort's percentile?
So good that there's this question like this. As I said before, no matter how much score we have, we constantly think or double guess as to what is the greatest score to apply, should I reappear, and all those kinds of things. I would say this, that if you think this program excites you, and if you have a valid score, just go ahead and apply rather than overly worrying about anything, because it doesn't take a lot to apply. I mean, the application process won't take more than 30 minutes. So, that's the best advice I can give you to all of you. We, don't worry too much about what is the score and average, and all the data is not shared with the participants. So that's my advice, piece of advice to all of you.
Next question is again from an anonymous attendee. The question is, how many students in the current DEM batch are from non-IT background? Are people with IT experience given preference over others, or non-IT folks have good chance of getting in?
You'd like to take this, Dr. Shekhar?
Yes. So I don't have the percentage with me right now to speak about how the distribution is. If you look at it, the course does not induce any bias from either the work experience or from your academic qualification. It's at the end of the day, business management program, and business management is applicable or relevant to everybody, irrespective of the background that person comes from. So it doesn't matter, what your background is, as long as you feel that, digital is your calling and you would like to make your mark with the use of technology and data, and not fear this aspect that the person sitting next to me speaks a little more of Java than I do, or something that I don't understand. Remember, these things all get evened out when the program finishes. So you could hear it from Palak that she comes from a social sector and is attending this program and has got into this program through her meritorious profile. And that is what matters at the end of the day, that people who are passionate, people who show that capability are the ones who get into the program.
Yes, sir. Moving on to our next question from Pradeep. Is the program geared to getting jobs in specific sector like IT or tech? In other words, are certain roles like finance or HR not offered by the companies offering placement?
Okay, let me answer that. Please understand, digital and digital transformation are still early days in this country. Many organizations are still trying to figure out how they would embark on this journey in future. Thanks to COVID, many of these thoughts have got into action and they have got accelerated. So right now, in the lens of digital, there is nothing as this is human resources, this is finance, and this is marketing, and this is operations. They get merged. So that's what digital actually forces you to start thinking about. So the roles that some of these students are getting, especially with mid-sized organizations, which are undergoing this transformation or enabling their clients undergo this transformation, is what we use a term called as end-to-end. They must have the ability to understand the business per se than a function in the business. And that's where this program becomes highly relevant. So it is not that, the students getting placed are doing only one kind of job. Their jobs will keep changing, or the way they would look at the profiles of students would require a lot of diversity. And that is where it becomes interesting for even newer companies or companies that are undergoing this transformation to start looking at hiring from.
Next question is again from anonymous attendee directed towards Rajesh sir. Considering that tech is now required in every business profile, how do we narrow down if the program is rightly suited to us?
Can you take that?
I heard your name, so I didn't hear the question. So can you repeat the question, Palak?
Sure, sir. Considering that tech is now required in every business profile, how do we narrow down if the program is rightly suited for us?
To be narrowed down?
Yes, sir.
So I didn't understand that portion. Narrowed down as what?
If the program is rightly suited for us, considering that tech is now required in every profile, how do we narrow down if the program is rightly suited to us?
Okay, so I didn't understand the question. Can we wait and ask the person to rephrase the question, and we can probably address that more clearly?
Yeah. Since it's an anonymous attendee, I'll request the participant to reframe the question and please put it in the Q&A section again. Moving on, it's a question from Pradeep. I have experience in PSU, air traffic control, but want to work in EdTech sector, totally unrelated to previous work experience. How easy or difficult is to switch sector after DEM course? Is there bias or effect of past work X on placement?
So let me give you two perspectives on this. Sorry, what is the name you said? Who's asked this question?
Pradhi.
Pradhi, it's always a good thing to look at switching tracks. And while you're controlling the flights that take off, there is somebody who's actually putting the flight on the tarmac too, which becomes operational with a good amount of literate pilots and crew. So you want to get into EdTech. This program per se will not guarantee that you get into EdTech, but prepares you for anything that requires digital, EdTech being one of them. So you may have to look at it in terms of saying, does this help me switch tracks? The answer is yes. Will it take me into the EdTech field? There's no guarantee that we give, but it is relevant to the EdTech too.
Next question is again from an anonymous attendee. What support does IIM Udaipur and DEM gives to start my own digital entrepreneurial venture as soon as I pass out? IIM Ahmedabad supports the student to start their own companies by three things. First, funding. Second, guidance. And third, allows to sit in placement even after 2 years, like insurance if startup fails.
So let me answer that in a more succinct manner. I would say if you're very clear you want to be an entrepreneur, then while you're doing this course, also register yourself with our entrepreneurship cell. So which will then guide the student into entrepreneurship, support that it can provide both financially as well as in the management level, and help you to build your business plan and take it off once you have graduated. The specifics can always be discussed with the entrepreneurship cell.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee. Why IIMU is having two separate one-year executive MBA programs, DEM and GSCM, when all other IIMs offer only flagship one-year executive program? What's the difference?
Yeah, I think this was addressed a little while ago, that there is a concept of a general management program and the other one, which is general management with a level of specialization or focused attention. I wouldn't call it specialization. It is more in terms of greater attention being given to a particular sector, domain, or an area. So the two programs that we have, one focuses on digital, which does not have any boundaries. The other one is focused on supply chain management, global supply chain management, which has a well-defined range. Both of them happen to be the fulcrum on which the country will catapult into the next level. If you listen to the finance minister's budget speech year on year, the prime minister's talk at various conferences, all the way the world now starts looking at India, the things that they speak about is digital and supply chain management. And that's where IIMU is actually deeply entrenched.
Next question is from Anirudh. Will there be internship in this course? I can take up this question. Anirudh, IIMU provides in the third semester, we have in the third semester, we have live projects in which we get hands-on experience with the different companies and they provide us projects to work on. So we have live projects instead of internships.
So let me add to that, Palak. You're yet to get there, so you don't know the real thing. So appreciate your attempt. So the purpose of bringing in projects into the DEM program is to look at how you would be working when you are actually working in the business world, right? So this is a glimpse of that. And unlike an internship where you spend full time with an organization, this being a one-year course and already packed with sessions, you actually do this as a project while you are on campus. So the organization interacts with you and understands that you are working from a campus. So they provide you with the support and guidance that you need, and they expect the result that they want you to get from the project, which also gets evaluated by the industry participating in it. And the projects actually start in the second term of the program because it needs sufficient time for the students to understand and work and provide the final results. So between the second and the third term, of the trimester program, the students work on projects. So in case of Palak's batch, which is almost coming to an end of its first term, right, Palak?
Yes, sir.
Soon she'll be hearing about projects and will be hit by that particular topic in terms of when to start and how to negotiate with the organization, develop your project plan, and start working on it. So you're given sufficient time to actually build on your project too.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee. What kind of roles are expected in placement post this program?
So typically, I mean, this landscape of placement is slowly changing. The way we are seeing from the first batch to now the third batch that has been placed, and the kind of conversations we are having with the industry. Typically, these are positions in like business analyst, or it is in terms of program management. Like somebody wants to take up a digital transformation case. The candidates chosen from these or specifically DEM program gets into the program management level or project management level into organizations that are enabling their customers to go through a digital transformation. The other area is in the digital aspect of product management, which is now gaining traction. So many of them actually get into those areas to understand how technology and data come together to bring a new perspective to product management itself. Very few, but slowly it's coming in, also get into what we call as business strategy. So how do you start thinking ahead? And how do you, become part of a task force? So that's also now slowly happening.
Next question is the candidate who I haven't appeared in CAT, GMAT or GRE, but I'm writing this year CAT 2023. Does CAT 2023 would be valid or not?
Yes, it is valid. You can appear for CAT 2023 and you can apply tentatively in cycle 4 or 5th when you receive your result for the CAT.
Next question is from Gaurav. Would having some breaks during my work experience raise some red flags in my application candidature?
Let me take that. Gaurav, it is a very natural question to anticipate. Any person who's viewing your profile is likely to know what caused the break. And you must have your response ready and make sure that you're speaking the truth and you're not covering it up.
Next is from Trigun. As there are multiple cycles of admissions, so if we don't get selected in any round, so can we apply in subsequent rounds?
I'll take this. As mentioned by Rajesh sir, like if it depends, like if you apply in cycle, if you're not shortlisted due to your profile, then you can apply for the next cycle. But if you appeared for the interview and not selected, then there is no sense of applying in the next cycle.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee. If someone has 5 years of work experience in IT and overall good profile, will they get shortlisted with low CAT score?
Okay, the shortlisting process is not about the score alone. It is the overall profile of the candidate, which includes work experience, academic excellence, the kind of exposure at the graduate program, as well as non-scholastic achievements. So it's complete in that sense. So the score alone is not something that we are critically viewing, saying that this is what will make sense. So I could see some of the other questions also asking, average score or best score or safe scores. The score alone is not the indicator. Score definitely is required. It is because the score tries and tells us that, you're kind of fine with both verbal and quantitative and logic that you have been assessed on. So if any of those do not come up to the level that one wants, then it can hamper the learning process. That's why the score is there. Otherwise, it's not the point for making a decision on selection.
Another question is from an anonymous attendee. Does applying in the last cycle has the minimum chance?
No. No, it doesn't mean anything of that sort.
Again, from an anonymous attendee. Hello, can you elaborate on the admission process also? As currently, I don't have valid CAT score and planning to take it in coming November.
That should be fine because the CAT results are typically published in the first or the second week of January, and you would be in time to apply in the cycle that is running after the CAT scores are published. So there is no problem.
There is
Again,
one
yes.
hand that has been raised. So would you request the person to post the question?
Yes. Akhil Gupta has raised your hand. Can you put your questions in the Q&A section, please? Yeah. I can see Akhil Gupta's questions already here.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Palak.
So with the current questions?
Yeah. I mean, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, sir. Another question is related to loan. One anonymous attendee is asking, as we need to take the student loan, but in every student loan, is it mandatory to have the guarantor for the loan? If yes, then if in the situation where the parents already taken the loan, so still parents can become the guarantee of the student loan? Is it possible to not have any guarantor or of the student loan?
I'll take this. So mainly for the loan process, there is some contractual means collateral security is there. But I suggest you that you can talk to us in this regard. We can connect to the bank, to you with the bank, and they can guide you in this regard.
Next question is from Abhishek. What is the average and minimum package for the last batch?
We mentioned in the PPT that for the last batch, the average compensation for the DEM batch was 21.5 lakh.
Next question is, what graduation percentage do I need to enroll for the DEM course?
You have to have a minimum of 50% to apply.
There's a rephrased question. Today, even a marketing professional requires tech or data, and as an extension, there's tech required in every field, some or the other way. How do I understand that the program curriculum is going to help me with my goals ahead? Considering I am already equipped with some tech requirements, considering that I already have 5 years of work experience.
So let me take that. This is Akhil's question, I'm getting, or it's some anonymous attendee. So you've started on the right track, saying that, literally every activity, every function, every business is becoming a tech-enabled business or a function or an activity. And therefore, knowledge of tech becomes relevant. However, the perspective of a technologist and the perspective of a business person are very, very different. A technologist looks at it in terms of a development or in terms of bug fixing or in terms of making that technology stable, whereas a business person looks at it from an application perspective in the way it can improve the performance of the organization or give better access to marketplaces. Those kind of decisions are taken basis technology. So what you already know is the tech part of it. What this program will help you know is the business side of it and how business is therefore leveraging the power of technology. That's where this program becomes relevant. So for you to know what an optimized decision is or what are the trade-offs that are there in adopting a technology, is, for instance, AI always ethical, or what are the challenges with AI that need to be addressed in the context of a business? How suitable is it for a particular kind of business? When you start looking at these kind of questions, a program like DEM becomes relevant for you.
Next question comes from Akhil. Is it possible to join the program and keep working on the job as well?
No.
It's a full-time program, so you have to get relieved by resigning from your current job and then join the program. So you must be relieved from your current employment before joining the program.
And I would like to add, the program gives you very little time for anything else.
Yes.
So don't even attempt. People have come saying that, I would have a startup idea. Can I, therefore continue with my startup? My investors are interested in those kind of things. The answer is a clear no. You be very sure what you want to do. If you want to be in academics, focus on that and build yourself. If you already have a great idea and you want to focus on your business activity or a venture, go into that.
Next question is from Pradeep. How is DEM course different from MBA and business analytics course offered by different students?
Perhaps there is a misnomer that digital is business analytics. So one element of digital is business analytics. There is a lot more to digital than analytics alone. And that is where this program becomes different. So at a larger level, let me answer this question, which was asked earlier in a slightly different format, that other institutes have such programs. How are you different? The genesis of this program is to look at how does a manager think digital? That's the question we are answering. And when you start thinking digital, your perspectives change. You will stop looking at, whether it's a finance role or whether it's an operations role or HR role or it's a marketing role or a research role. It is all put together. How do you address change and scale at the same time? So those are the kinds of questions that digital help you answer. It is not about saying that, I have learned marketing. At the end of it, I've told there is something as digital marketing. That's not the way this is taught. You are taught marketing as a foundational course, but the digital marketing actually sets you thinking digital every time. So whether you're launching a new product, where you're conceptualizing a new product, you're addressing a new market, you're looking at customer experiences, how would you look at it from the lens of digital is where this program becomes very, very different. So at source, this is about digital. That's where it becomes very, very different. And everybody else may be talking about it in terms of saying, at the end of it, we'll bring in a component of digital. That's not what it is.
Next question comes from Vikash. What external certification is good for business analyst or DEM?
Please come again.
What external certification is good for business analyst or DEM?
Or DEM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's keep it to what external certification is good for DEM.
Very difficult to answer that. We are not expecting you to get certificates from other programs and enable your profile through the DEM. But what can help you is whichever is your area of interest. If you can build your capabilities through certification programs or self-learning or even following certain leaders there, that will help you significantly. So we don't insist that you go and fetch some certificate or appear for it. There are certain things that in the program, faculty may say that you may do it on your own and build it, because everything is not going to be taught. There are some things that you will have to learn on your own, and that depends on your interest and the level of interest at which you want to operate. So if it is pure play analytics that you're looking at, there could be many things that you may want to do on the side. You can always consult the faculty if you are in the program and want to get a specific input on a program to do as an add-on. But DEM per se does not demand that you go and do these programs.
Next is from an anonymous attendee. Does IIM Udaipur accepts both the online and test-based score of eligible exams?
I'll take this. Yes, we accept both the scores. You can with the score, and you have to send the official mark sheet from either ETS or MBA.com.
Anonymous attendee is asking, when do we get admission letter if selected for each cycle?
Tentatively, means we have given the announcement of a result date for all the cycles. So you will receive the outcomes and the offer letter from within that time frame. So for cycle 1, I think that 28 September or 30th September, you will receive a application.
Next question is from Pradeep. Do the GSCM and DEM courses offer any exchange opportunities with foreign universities? Example, dual degree or one semester abroad?
The answer is no, and I'm going to speak for the DEM program specifically, not on the GSCM. The DEM program, the best of our knowledge, still happens to be a very unique program in the world. There is nobody else who's offering the program similar to the structure and the content that we are doing. So there is no scope of looking at collaboration in that particular space. But what is more important is to understand that this program by itself is gaining traction. And that's why when we spoke about the industry participation, there is interest that is actually gaining in the industry to understand how IIM Udaipur is actually working on the DEM program.
Next question is from Saptarshi. Having gone through the site, I see that IIMU has rolling admissions. Keeping that in mind, will the interview, if shortlisted, also be done before another cycle starts?
The offer is made for each cycle. So if that is the question, the offer is made, and it is not something that we revoke from our side, unless certain factual inaccuracies show up. Otherwise, if we have made an offer, the offer is firm from our side.
Next question is from anonymous attendee regarding CAT. Are there any sectional cutoff for applying through CAT? If one has an overall good percentile with high score in 2 sections and quite a low score in 1 section, will that be an issue?
Let me take this. As I said, we cannot discuss in a webinar all the nuances of the selection process. As I had said before, that the best way to approach, if I were you, would not be to double guess as to what's going to happen about the shortlisting and selection. The score that you have it, right? So go ahead and apply, right? That's the best way forward anywhere, not only IIM Udaipur, but everywhere. And then you see whether you get shortlisted and selected, as simple as that.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee. I'm working employee as a mechanical engineer having 5 years of experience. As a core engineer with specialization will add value for me in 1-year PGPX program. What is the scope after completing 1-year program via campus placement?
So we've had people from mechanical and / manufacturing background joining the program, but they actually switch tracks. So the kind of roles that they get is completely different. It's not a shop floor oriented role. It becomes more on the digital side or on the management side of it. So that's how the trend has been. We are hoping at some point in time, manufacturing industry itself starts looking at MBA programs, especially like the DEM, because there is a lot that digital does on the shop floor too, in terms of how to improve efficiency or how to look at new production techniques and things like those. So maybe it's a time in future, but right now, people with manufacturing backgrounds will actually get into placement for different kinds of roles.
There's one question from an anonymous attendee. What is the batch strength for DEM and GSM? Is it fixed?
So let me take that. So, we are expecting a batch size of approximately 60 in both these programs. It's very difficult to predict exactly how much, but broadly that's the range of 60 each, in GSC and DEM.
Next question is from Saptarshi. Can I apply to both DEM and GSCM program in the same cycle? Does it affect chances of admission by any reason whatsoever?
Yes, I'll take this. You can apply for both the program, and applying for both the program in same cycle does not have an impact on the decision for the shortlisting.
Next question is related to Tanu ma'am. Can you please elaborate that is it possible to avail the student loan without guarantor? Because I am in difficult situation when I don't have any guarantor available except my parents, but they already have taken the loan on their maximum limit. So is it possible?
Let me take this.
Yes,
I'll take this. You know what? It varies from bank to bank. While some banks are very particular, other banks are willing to be more flexible by charging a higher rate of interest. So actually, it's very hard for us as an academic institution to say, what the terms of the bank would be. We have a specific tie-up with State Bank of India where we can put you in touch with State Bank of India and they can tell you what their terms are. But the students, while mostly take the loan from State Bank of India, there are many students who take the loan from other banks. Could be any bank. So if you are interested in getting to understand this better through State Bank, you can contact Tanu, and the admissions office will be more than happy to put you in touch. If it's a question of other banks, then you need to find out directly as to what their terms are. I hope that clarifies, because we are not in a position to clarify this part.
Next question is again from an anonymous attendee. Will academics play any role in selection process, as in people having less percentage in graduation? I have 6 years of work experience in sales domain.
So let me repeat that. Your academic excellence, brilliance, or performance will definitely be part of the interview process. So if you feel that you've not done academically well, you need to have a good answer to say what happened and why it was not, but back it up with the ability that over the 6 years that you worked, you actually excelled. So what is that level of excellence you've reached becomes an important thing. So there are certain assessments that are made based on your academic performance, which is why I said your graduate level program, your profile, your interests, your co-curricular activities, your extracurricular activities are all part of your profile that is considered.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee. What are the key takeaways from DEM program as an aspirant?
None of us is an aspirant here to actually give you a real answer to it. But I would say that whatever a management graduate today aspires to do is what DEM provides. So if it means managerial roles at organizations and access to better forms of decision making, or in some point in time become a leader, those opportunities are available through this particular program.
Next question is related to batch size. Has there been any increment in the intake of this program?
As we mentioned that, approximately we are expecting to have 60 participants in the incoming batch. It may move this side, that side by a few participants, but broadly that's the planned intake.
Next question. I have 47% in my graduation and I'm not sure about CAT or GMAT. Will I be considered?
We require at least 50% in your graduation. So that unfortunately won't make you eligible to apply.
Last question from an anonymous attendee. I have 53% in BTech and have 2 years gap during graduation and have 6 years work experience in business development. Will the gap affect my selection process?
The gap needs to be answered if the question is asked. It will definitely draw the attention of the interviewer, and therefore you must have a good reason what happened and explain it, and then focus on what happened subsequently.
We have another question from Laksh. What's considered a good profile, and please elaborate on the ideal candidate you're looking for this program.
Okay, let me take that up. What is this gentleman's name?
Laksh.
Laksh, that is what you need. So that's called focus. If your profile is focused, it says what you want to do, and you are able to back it up with some bit of academic excellence, some bit of work experience, some bit of passion-led activity, that's what we are looking for. See, we've been trying to say this in different ways to you. We are not looking at it from a cutoff point of view or saying that this will disqualify you other than those criteria that have been specified. We are looking at the profile in a wholesome manner, the holistic thing. Whether you would be able to contribute in the class, whether you will be able to take the load of this particular program, whether you have the attitude that helps you look into possibilities of the unknown. So those are the kind of traits that actually one is looking for in this particular program. So it is not a production factory that, we say that we have inspected you as good for quality and then we push you through the line and bring you out. This is not a process-driven activity. It has certain elements of process, but it's a clear selection. And for being selected, you have to put up your best foot forward, whatever it be.
So one more question. There was an anonymous attendee who repeatedly asked one question: why IMU is having two separate one-year executive programs, DEM and GSCM, when all other IIMs offer only one-year flagship executive program? Though we have answered this, but if you could take it up again.
So as we said before, that, there are general management programs, there are programs with special focus. So we believe that while there are many general management programs, it's important to also have some domain-specific programs such as digital and digital supply chain, digital enterprise management. And that's the reason we have started this. It's quite up to the participants to figure out what excites them. If there are students who are excited about general management, they can apply the general management program. And we also run a 2-year MBA general management program, right? But we thought there are also a group of students who are, excited about the prospect of digital, or likewise, there are people excited about the prospect of supply chain. So they must have an opportunity to pursue that program. That's the reason. All right, so that brings us to the end of this webinar. And, so I would like to say this again in the closing. If you have a valid score and if digital is something excites you, management is something excites you, then perhaps this could be an interesting program to look at. But very important to think through what excites you, what is your ambition, and whether your ambition aligns with what this program offers, then perhaps this is a good program for you to consider. And I would like that, you take a decision which is good for you, right? It's all about what is good for you. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank my co-panelists today, Dr. Shekhar, Ms. Tanu from Admissions Office, and Palak for very ably hosting this webinar. Thank you and have a good evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.